Imagine two men standing at a crossroads. One steps forward boldly, announcing where he's headed, radiating ambition and inviting others to watch him climb. The other stands still, eyes fixed on the horizon, saying nothing, yet somehow, you sense he already knows the path better than anyone. Right there, the contrast is unmistakable. One is the alpha male, the other, the sigma male. The alpha demands attention, his authority is loud, clear, and often tied to his status and visibility. He thrives on hierarchy, dominance, and recognition. The sigma, however, doesn't play by the same rules. He doesn't chase the spotlight, he bends it. His strength lies in quiet confidence, strategic thinking, and a detachment from traditional power structures. At first glance, both may appear powerful. But beneath the surface, their motivations, methods, and mindsets couldn't be more different. This isn't just about personality, it's about how two men move through the same world with radically different operating systems. In boardrooms and backrooms, in friendships and crises, in the moments that test character and shape legacy, the true difference becomes crystal clear. In today's video, we're putting both the alpha and the sigma into 12 real-world scenarios, from negotiations to networking, to reveal how each one responds under pressure, seizes opportunity, and navigates the complexity of modern life. Number 1. Running a meeting. When an alpha runs a meeting, the room feels it before he even speaks. He enters like a general surveying his battlefield, sharp suit, firm handshakes, eye contact that asserts rather than invites. The projector flickers to life as he launches into a polished presentation, laying out agenda points with rehearsed certainty. There's no room for hesitation in his tone, just bold forecasts, confident solutions, and phrases like game changer and industry standard. It's not just about leading, it's about owning the air in the room. His aim is momentum, get the team inspired, moving fast, and leaning into his vision. His presence dominates, and most nod along, swept by the gravity of his conviction. But in the same room, a sigma would operate entirely differently. He enters without fanfare, his demeanor calm, almost understated. No need for noise, he's scanning the layout, reading the emotional temperature, clocking power dynamics. While the alpha speaks, the sigma watches. Not just the content, but the delivery. Who's bluffing? Who's deflecting? Who's posturing for position? Instead of launching into slides, he opens a notebook, or sometimes says nothing at all. His checklist is lean but laser-focused. Who holds the numbers? Where's the friction no one's naming? Which assumptions haven't been stress-tested? Every sentence spoken by others is data. He listens not to respond, but to diagnose. Behind every confident proposal, he traces motive, bias, and risk. When the sigma finally speaks, it's never to impress, it's to redirect. He asks surgical questions that expose gaps without attacking. How do we quantify that? What's the downside scenario? What happens if we remove this one variable? In an instant, vague enthusiasm transforms into measurable clarity. The alpha sparks the energy, but it's the sigma who builds the structure it flows through. By the end of the meeting, no one claps for the sigma. He doesn't need it. What he leaves behind is far more powerful, a roadmap sharper than anyone expected, built not from charisma, but comprehension. He walks out quiet, but the course has already shifted in his direction. Because in real decision-making, volume is an accessory, clarity is king. Number 2, working a room. At a networking event, the alpha is a storm. He moves from group to group like a force of nature, introducing himself with powerful handshakes, cracking well-timed jokes, making others laugh with animated stories. His voice carries. His confidence is photogenic. Every camera catches him mid-sentence, eyebrows raised, smile wide, surrounded by laughter and nods. In this environment, he's alive. Every interaction is an opportunity to dominate attention, drop names, and build short-term rapport. To most people in the room, he's unforgettable until he leaves. Across the room, the sigma is almost invisible. He's not making a scene, not chasing introductions, and definitely not performing. He positions himself near the edges, not out of shyness, but strategy. He watches the interactions, who's speaking with conviction, who's repeating buzzwords, who's holding the real knowledge versus who's just projecting. He doesn't move often, but when he does, it's deliberate. When the sigma engages someone, he doesn't begin with small talk or a pitch. Instead, he listens first, and deeply. He asks questions that unlock the other person's expertise, drawing out insights they didn't even know they were ready to share. And just when the conversation reaches its peak, he drops one precise, reframing observation, an insight so crisp it causes the other person to pause, think, and remember. It's not charm, it's impact. While the alpha leaves a trail of wide smiles and forgettable business cards, the sigma leaves something more valuable, intellectual gravity. He may walk away with only 3 or 4 new contacts, but each one feels a genuine connection, already trusts his mind, and is thinking about how to work with him again. And over time, those few relationships blossom into referrals, collaborations, and respect, the kind that lives beyond the noise. Because in a room full of performers, the Sigma is the one they still remember the next morning. Not as the loudest, but as the one who actually mattered. Number 3, sealing the deal. Negotiation, for the Alpha, is theater, and he plays the lead role with practiced intensity. The lights go on, and he steps forward with bold confidence, flooding the room with presence. He's armed with classic pressure levers, artificial deadlines, bluffing confidence, urgent ultimatums, and of course, the ever-effective name drop to signal how well-connected or indispensable he is. To most people, this strategy is overwhelming. It rattles the unprepared. It forces concessions before the real conversation even begins. The Alpha is betting on psychological dominance, on triggering fear of loss, uncertainty, and time scarcity to push the other party into a reactive corner. But then, the Sigma sits across the table. And the whole script begins to unravel. Because the Sigma doesn't react. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't rush. He watches. His power lies in stillness, because what the Alpha interprets as silence, the Sigma uses as strategy. Before the negotiation even began, the Sigma had already defined his non-negotiables, identified his walkaway threshold, and explored multiple fallback scenarios. Where the Alpha enters with bluster, the Sigma arrives with data and a blueprint. When pressure is applied, we need a decision by end of day. This is a one-time offer. The Sigma simply lets the silence stretch. No discomfort. No reaction. He's practiced it. And in that vacuum, something fascinating happens. The Alpha begins to talk more. He fills the void, elaborating, over-explaining, revealing true priorities he didn't intend to share. His carefully constructed pressure tactics start to buckle under their own weight. The Sigma responds not with arguments, but with surgical clarity. How was that number calculated? Can you walk me through the assumptions here? What happens if we pause for 48 hours? Each question is a scalpel, removing theater, exposing structure. Over time, the negotiation pace shifts. The Alpha's urgency now feels premature, even reckless. The Sigma rewrites the tempo, commanding the room by refusing to chase control. By the time the contract is signed, it looks far more like the Sigma's silent plan than the Alpha's dramatic pitch. Why? Because where the Alpha pushed hard, the Sigma pulled the truth. And in the realm of real negotiation, indifference to pressure dismantles any strategy built on it. Number 4, reading people. The Alpha walks into a room and reads it fast. Body language, eye contact, posture. He scans for hierarchy, allies, and resistance. It's a strength. But it's also a double-edged sword, because while he's reading, he's also broadcasting. His own signals are loud. A flash of irritation when challenged. That half-smirk after praise. A subtle lean forward when the topic swings back to his wins. To most, these cues go unnoticed. But to a Sigma, they might as well be neon signs. The Sigma doesn't just read people, he decodes them. His presence is muted, calm tone, steady gaze, occasional nods that encourage others to keep talking. He rarely interrupts, never performs, and doesn't project ego. As a result, people open up around him, not because they trust him, but because they don't feel the need to defend against him. And while they talk, the Sigma listens on 2 levels. The literal content, what they're saying. The emotional residue, what they're really feeling. He watches micro-expressions, slight tension in the jaw when a topic is mentioned, enthusiasm that feels rehearsed, eye movements that betray hesitation. These aren't just tells, they're entries in a mental file the Sigma is building in real time. By the end of a single meeting, the Sigma has mapped. Who is insecure about their standing? Who hides ambition behind false modesty? Who's likely to fold under stress? But what makes it more powerful is this: no one knows what he's thinking. To them, he's just quiet, thoughtful, or that guy who asked that smart question. He gives away nothing. There's no clear agenda, no needy smile, no attempt to win favor. So when the next interaction comes, the Sigma is already 3 moves ahead. He adapts his tone, tailors his incentives, or subtly challenges assumptions, based on insights no one else even noticed the first time. Meanwhile, the Alpha walks in expecting the same dynamic, and finds himself subtly redirected, occasionally confused by how quickly the room's tone shifts away from him. The Sigma doesn't dominate people, he designs around them. Because in every human interaction, the quietest player with the most information always holds the real power. Number 5, planning under pressure. Crisis doesn't build character, it reveals it. And in those critical moments when pressure is crushing and uncertainty is everywhere, you see the stark contrast between the alpha and the sigma male in action. The alpha's first instinct is motion. He acts fast, rallying the team, issuing visible commands, making bold symbolic moves designed to signal leadership to anyone watching. In his mind, decisive action equals strength. He wants momentum, reassurance, and optics. The energy he generates boosts morale, creates noise, and gives the illusion that someone has taken control of the storm. But look deeper, and cracks begin to show. That rapid-fire cost-cutting initiative? It may have slashed essential infrastructure. The public promise to fix it by Monday? It just boxed the entire team into an impossible timeline. The rallying speech? It's built on confidence, not contingency. Alphas shine in visible moments, but those moments often come at the expense of long-term structure. Now, place the same crisis in front of a sigma, and the atmosphere shifts entirely. No rushed declarations. No performative urgency. Just stillness, and then, quiet movement behind the curtain. While others are reacting, the sigma is processing. He immediately goes into systems mode. Mapping possible failure points. Identifying critical bottlenecks. Evaluating second and third-order effects. Creating layered fallback routes before speaking a single directive. From the outside, this calculated delay may appear as hesitation, and people may start questioning his leadership. But the sigma knows, crisis is rarely about first impressions, it's about survivability. Then the real storm hits, unexpected variables, policy reversals, supplier collapse, or a data breach. And suddenly, the alpha, who has already gone public with promises and bold plans, is forced into damage control. Meanwhile, the sigma opens his silent contingency file, already built, already mapped, and begins deploying plan B, C, and D without skipping a beat. Where the alpha is now scrambling to protect face, the sigma is executing quietly with a map he created before the chaos unfolded. Because for him, pressure is not an excuse for noise, it's an opportunity for clarity. In the end, the alpha may win the headlines, but the sigma wins the system, and in a world ruled by complexity and consequences, that's the only victory that lasts. Speed matters. But foresight? That wins the marathon every time. Number 6, choosing a career route. Careers are more than job titles, they're identity maps, especially for alpha and sigma males. The alpha male sees a well-defined ladder, clearly structured hierarchies, competition with measurable wins, milestones that signal rank and dominance. He thrives in environments where every step upward confirms his growing status, corporate promotions, commission leaderboards, title upgrades. For him, success is linear, a straight ascent with no detours, no ambiguity. And in stable systems, this works. Every rung climbed adds to his influence. Every promotion validates his strategy. He becomes the rising star in a system built to reward visible ambition. But here's the catch, systems change. Markets collapse. Industries shift. AI eats jobs. Entire sectors get replaced, and the once stable ladder begins to shake, and sometimes disappears altogether. And that's when the sigma's path starts to make sense. Because the sigma doesn't see a career as a staircase. He sees it as a landscape. For him, the traditional ladder is optional, sometimes useful, often restrictive. Instead of chasing pre-built tracks, he creates his own routes, even if they look strange or scattered to outsiders. 1 year, he's freelancing. Next, he's building a niche online business. Then he's consulting, coding, designing, studying psychology, or launching a micro-brand. It doesn't look like a climb, it looks like chaos. But beneath that eclectic surface, the sigma is compounding leverage. Skills others call unrelated are quietly becoming tools in a cross-functional toolkit. Side projects become income streams, not just hobbies. Digital presence, intellectual assets, and decentralized networks replace reliance on any single gatekeeper or institution. While the alpha builds depth within one structure, the sigma builds resilience across many. And when disruption hits, when the industry downsizes, the ladder collapses, or the job becomes obsolete, the alpha is left with one broken rung and no options. The sigma? His options expand. Because his path never relied on a single institution, boss, or framework. His value isn't borrowed from a title, it's built from adaptation. In a world where the rules change mid-game, the one who can move sideways, backward, or diagonally without panic becomes the one no system can break. Career success isn't about following the ladder anymore. It's about building a structure no one else can see, until they realize it's bulletproof. Number 7, receiving criticism. Criticism isn't just feedback, it's a threat signal for the alpha male. In the alpha's world, identity is tightly wrapped around status, dominance, and perceived competence. Any challenge to his performance, choices, or image triggers instinctive defense mechanisms. Justification, he explains away the failure as an exception or blames circumstances. Counterattack, he shifts attention to someone else's flaws or weaknesses. Image reinforcement, he reminds others of past wins, credentials, or accolades to reaffirm his superiority. The energy doesn't go into absorbing the critique. It goes into protecting the hierarchy. In his mind, to acknowledge fault is to risk position. And in alpha dynamics, position is everything. But the Sigma lives by a different code. He's already decoupled self-worth from public approval. Praise doesn't inflate him, insults don't dismantle him. That emotional independence makes criticism, whether constructive or hostile, useful intelligence rather than a personal attack. When critique arrives, the Sigma doesn't react emotionally. He processes it strategically. He checks the source. Does this person understand the context? Do they have insight worth weighing? He compares the feedback against internal metrics. Does the data confirm the critique? Is there a pattern he's overlooked? If the criticism reveals a real gap, he patches it, quietly, without broadcasting the adjustment or seeking validation. If it's noise, rooted in envy, projection, or ignorance, he discards it without drama. No need to defend. No need to engage. This ongoing cycle, analyze, adjust, improve, becomes a feedback loop for evolution. And here's the difference that compounds over time. The alpha keeps a polished outer shell, but behind it are uncorrected blind spots and fragile ego scaffolding. The Sigma keeps an internal upgrade system, one that constantly refines, improves, and expands his capability. In 5 years, the alpha is still fighting for position. The Sigma has become someone no position can contain. Because while the alpha fears criticism for what it might expose, the Sigma uses it for what it might reveal. One is protecting the mirror. The other is building the machine. Number 8, solving complex problems. The alpha mindset is built on clarity, and often, simplicity. He sees the world in binaries, win versus lose, strong versus weak, loyal versus threat. This frame allows for fast action, clear commands, and visible leadership. And in environments where speed matters more than nuance, sales floors, battlefields, or team sports, that's effective. But modern challenges aren't binary. They're interwoven systems of complexity. Ethical dilemmas with no clean solution. Technological disruptions with unpredictable ripple effects. Global supply chains that break from a single micro-delay. Social dynamics layered with psychology, trauma, and unspoken bias. In these arenas, alpha-style linear thinking starts to crack under pressure. He seeks certainty where none exists. He applies force where finesse is required. He commits early, then must double down to protect face, even if the strategy collapses. Enter the Sigma. To him, complexity isn't intimidating, it's normal. He doesn't demand clean answers. He gathers competing truths, holds contradictory variables in his mind, and allows probability, not ego, to guide his next step. He understands systems, not just outcomes. He maps stakeholders, incentives, and failure points. He updates assumptions as data changes. There is no identity crisis in changing direction, because the Sigma's self-worth isn't married to a single idea. Admitting, "I was wrong," costs him nothing, because the goal is alignment with truth, not protection of ego. While the alpha tries to rally his team around false clarity and just do it momentum, the Sigma moves through the fog of uncertainty, building an adaptable strategy that evolves in real time. In think tanks, complex startups, high-level diplomacy, and systems engineering, this mindset is not just useful, it's vital. The crowd may cheer for the alpha's confidence early on, but when the dust settles, it's the Sigma's nuanced understanding, quiet agility, and real-time adaptability that actually solves the problem. Certainty may win applause. But in a complex world, it's adaptability that wins the game. Number 9, leading without a title. Leadership, for the alpha male, is often tied to position and authority. He thrives when the chain of command is clear, when he can issue directives from the top and expect compliance. Titles, corner offices, and formal designations aren't just perks, they're proof of his dominance. In his mind, leadership equals visibility and control. The alpha leads from above, he pulls people forward through force of personality, charisma, and status. But the Sigma leads from within, through influence, not instruction. He may not have the title. He may even avoid it. But when challenges arise, people turn to him, not because they're told to, but because they trust his clarity. His leadership style is subtle, asking the right question in the chaos, offering insight that reframes the entire conversation, proposing strategies that others haven't considered. Over time, this quiet impact creates an invisible gravity around him. People instinctively loop him into decision-making, not for his approval, but for his lens. And here's the paradox: the alpha demands attention to lead. The sigma receives attention by never asking for it. While the alpha builds leadership on visibility and assertion, the sigma builds it on credibility and pattern recognition. In rooms where titles rule, the alpha wins. In rooms where wisdom is currency, the sigma quietly takes over. True influence isn't about who speaks loudest, it's about who people look to when things get real. Number 10. Navigating social hierarchies. The alpha instinctively maps every room for hierarchy: who's dominant, who's submissive, who's rising, and who's fading. Social climbing isn't optional for him, it's a sport. He aligns with powerful allies, eliminates rivals, and builds coalitions that serve his ascent. Every interaction is a chance to reaffirm position. In settings like corporate politics, group dynamics, or high-visibility environments, this works. He commands attention, asserts dominance, and wins allies through charisma and presence. But it also makes him predictable: his moves are visible, his alliances transactional, his power vulnerable to exposure or betrayal. The sigma? He walks through social hierarchies like a ghost in a castle. Not bound by them. Not rebelling against them. Just uninterested. He doesn't chase status, but neither does he kneel to it. He builds relationships based on shared insight, not shared ambition. He can speak to a CEO or a janitor with the same level of respect, because his value isn't determined by position, but by clarity of thought and mutual respect. This makes him hard to place, and even harder to manipulate. While others are busy jockeying for approval or battling for dominance, the sigma remains unchained. He moves diagonally in social structures, sometimes outside them entirely. Over time, people realize something powerful. The sigma doesn't need the system, but the system may need him. That's not rebellion. That's sovereignty. Number 11. Handling betrayal. When betrayal hits, the alpha feels it as a personal insult, a threat to his identity, dominance, and pride. His first response is emotional: anger, confrontation, and often a public display of power meant to punish the traitor and reassert control. He may lash out, cutting off the offender dramatically, gathering allies to witness the fallout, or launching a revenge campaign to remind others what happens when someone crosses him. For the alpha, betrayal is a declaration of war. He fights it with fire. But the sigma processes betrayal differently. He doesn't react with fury, he reacts with information parsing. What caused this move? Was it predictable? Were the signs there? Where did trust outpace verification? His calm can confuse the betrayer: no explosion, no threat, just a cold, quiet withdrawal and a series of internal system updates. Access is revoked silently. Patterns are reanalyzed. Weak points are fortified. Where the alpha seeks vengeance, the sigma seeks pattern correction. He doesn't burn bridges, he removes them from the map. He doesn't announce his retaliation, he renders the betrayer irrelevant. In the long run, the alpha may regain his pride, but the sigma upgrades his filters, ensuring he never lets that kind of person in again. And while the alpha fights to restore his image, the sigma vanishes from the radar, untouchable, unshaken, and more immune than ever. Because to the sigma, betrayal isn't just a break in loyalty. It's a diagnostic moment, and once the system is patched, it doesn't break the same way twice. Number 12. Teaching others. Alpha males tend to teach through command and demonstration. They're the classic "watch how I do it" leaders. Their confidence is magnetic, and their lessons often come in the form of bold assertions, simplified truths, or competitive challenges. But there's a limit: alphas often teach from above. Their approach can intimidate, overwhelm, or flatten nuance. If the student doesn't keep up or questions the method, the alpha may interpret it as resistance rather than curiosity. Alphas often teach to affirm their own mastery. The sigma teaches differently. He doesn't teach to impress, he teaches to transfer capability. He prefers a one-on-one or small group dynamic where egos don't dominate. He listens first, gauging the other person's current level, blind spots, and motivation. Then he tailors his response like a locksmith crafting a key: precise, quiet, and customized. He doesn't dump information, he creates insight traps, questions, analogies, and counterintuitive examples that unlock deeper comprehension. He may even let someone struggle, long enough for them to find the answer on their own, because he knows self-discovery sticks longer than instruction. And when they get it, he doesn't need credit. The alpha wants to be remembered as the teacher. The sigma wants the lesson to stand on its own. As a result, people who learn from alphas often remember the alpha. People who learn from sigmas often remember the truth. In a world full of talkers, the sigma becomes the rare person others seek, not for hype, but for clarity that lasts. Final thoughts: the two blueprints of power. Across the boardroom, the battlefield of negotiations, the complex maze of modern careers, and even in moments of personal challenge, alpha and sigma males reveal two fundamentally different blueprints for power. The alpha male is built for visibility. He thrives in arenas where dominance is rewarded, where hierarchy is clear, and where fast decisions and bold declarations earn applause. His strengths are real, charisma, confidence, and the ability to galvanize a group quickly. But his game is external. His toolkit is designed for structured environments, where rules are known, and the loudest voice often wins. In stable systems, this works. When the ladder is solid and the playbook predictable, the alpha climbs fast and commands the room with ease. But life isn't always stable. Systems collapse. Markets shift. Teams fracture. Plans derail. And that's where the sigma begins to emerge. You see, the sigma doesn't reject power, he redefines it. He doesn't chase the spotlight because he's too busy building the stage others don't even see yet. He doesn't perform authority, he embodies it in silence. While the alpha broadcasts, the sigma observes. While others rush to act, the sigma gathers leverage. He builds slow, but he builds deep. This is why, when uncertainty hits and the rules start changing mid-game, the sigma male is already ahead, not because he was louder, but because he was smarter, quieter, and more adaptable. He doesn't need public affirmation to validate his course. He doesn't need applause to feel successful. His power isn't derived from hierarchy, but from self-governance, internal clarity, and asymmetrical insight. In a world obsessed with external metrics, followers, titles, status, the sigma male represents a quiet rebellion. A reminder that the most influential people often move beneath the surface, operating with precision while the rest are distracted by noise. So when others ask, who's in charge? The sigma doesn't raise his hand. He's too busy orchestrating outcomes behind the curtain. He's the anomaly, the one who doesn't fit the mold. Because he's the one who melted it down and forged his own. The sigma male doesn't chase power, popularity, or approval, he outgrows them. And in a world where complexity is the new battlefield, the man who can master silence, strategy, and self is the one who will shape the future. If this breakdown resonated with you, if you see the world differently, think deeper, and move in silence like the sigma, then this channel is your tribe. Hit that subscribe button and join a growing community of independent minds who don't follow trends, they analyze them, outgrow them, and outmaneuver them. Thank you for watching.